My first day at Westbridge High was supposed to be simple. Find my classroom, keep my head down, survive the day. But life has a way of placing the right or the wrong person in your path exactly when you least expect it. Because the very moment I stepped into that classroom, he was already staring at me. Tall, confident, with that kind of presence that makes everyone else quiet without him saying a word. His name was Sebastian Hale. And within seconds, he walked up to me, leaned closer than he needed to, and said the first sentence that would change everything that came after. "You're new. Sit in the back, next to me." It wasn't a request. It wasn't kindness. It wasn't guidance. It was something else, something I couldn't name then, but I would spend the rest of the year trying to understand. Because behind his tone, behind his confidence, behind the strange intensity in his eyes, there was something he wasn't ready to say out loud, and I wasn't ready to hear. What started with a simple seat assignment became the beginning of the most unexpected connection of my life, one that would challenge me, confuse me, scare me, and change me forever. Stay with me, because what happened between me and the boy who ordered me to sit in the back is a story you won't forget. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss the next chapters. I don't know what I expected when I walked into Westbridge High for the first time, but it definitely wasn't silence. Not the uncomfortable kind, the observing kind. The kind that makes you feel like your clothes, your hair, your entire existence is being scanned and judged in real time. I clutched the strap on my backpack a little tighter and forced myself to keep walking down the hallway. Posters of sports teams and student events lined the walls. Groups of friends clustered near lockers, laughing and talking like they'd known each other since birth. And then there was me, the new kid who didn't know a single soul. My homeroom was in the far corner of the second floor, room 214. The doorknob was cold beneath my hand. When I pushed it open, that's when I saw him, Sebastian Hale. He was leaning back in his chair, legs stretched out, arms crossed over his chest, like he owned not just the desk, not just a row, but the entire room. His dark hair fell just above his brow, his jawline sharp, the kind of sharp that comes from a life lived confidently. I didn't know who he was yet, but I could tell he was someone people either feared, admired, or both. His eyes lifted when I stepped in, and for a moment, just a moment, I forgot how to breathe. Not because he was intimidating, though he was, but because there was something in his gaze that made me feel like he already knew something about me that I didn't even know about myself. I looked away quickly, telling myself I was imagining it. I scanned the room for an empty desk near the front. I like sitting in front. It made me feel less lost. But before I could walk toward one, a voice cut through the low chatter, firm, deep, directed at me. "You're new, right?" I froze. It was him, Jordan. He didn't wait for me to answer. He nodded toward the back corner of the room. "Sit there, next to me." A few students turned to watch. Some smirked, some seemed annoyed, and some, the majority, just kept observing, as if waiting to see whether I'd obey. I swallowed hard. I was going to sit in the front. He raised one eyebrow, slow and calculating, not mocking, not cruel, just certain. "You don't want to do that." "And why not?" I asked, trying to sound braver than I felt. His lips curved, not into a smile, but into something halfway between amusement and challenge. "Trust me." Trust him? I didn't even know him. But something in his tone, not authoritative but instinctive, made my chest tighten, like saying no would be the wrong decision, even though I couldn't explain why. The teacher wasn't there yet. The room was watching, and I had a split second to decide whether I want to start my first day by making enemies. So I walked to the back. Sebastian didn't move his legs at first, forcing me to awkwardly squeeze past him. It was intentional. I could feel it. He watched every step I took, not in a mocking way, but in a strange curiosity, like he wanted to understand something about me. When I finally sat down, he leaned slightly toward me. "Good," he said quietly. "You're safer here." Safer? From what? Before I could ask, the teacher entered the room, and everyone straightened immediately. Sebastian slid back into his seat, his expression shifting from intense to unreadable, like he was used to hiding whatever was going on beneath the surface. "Class, we have a new student today," the teacher announced. "Would you like to introduce yourself?" Fantastic. I stood and forced a smile. My name is Noah. I just moved here from Denver. Happy to be here." The teacher thanked me, and the moment I sat down, Sebastian leaned in again, this time his voice barely above a whisper. "Denver, huh?" "Yes." "Big change." "You could say that." He studied me for a few seconds, too long, too directly. It made my skin warm in a way I didn't want to think too much about. Then he looked away for a second, tapping his pencil against his desk. Class went on, but my mind didn't. I kept replaying that first moment. The way he ordered me to sit in the back, the way he watched me, the strange seriousness behind his words, and the worst part, every time I told myself to ignore him, something inside me pulled me right back. When the bell finally rang, I gathered my things quickly, hoping to escape before he said anything else. But Sebastian stood up at the exact same time I did, blocking the narrow path between our desks. "You rushing somewhere?" "I have my next class." He tilted his head, studying me again. "You nervous?" Was it that obvious? "No," I lied. He smirked. "You should be." I blinked. "Why?" He stepped closer, too close, his voice dropping low, almost careful, "Because people here notice everything. Who you talk to, where you sit, who you choose to be near." His eyes locked onto mine, unblinking. "And today, you chose to sit next to me." My heartbeat kicked in my chest. I didn't understand what his words meant, but something in his tone made them feel heavier than they sounded. Before I could ask anything, he moved past me, brushing lightly against my arm, a touch so quick I almost questioned if it happened at all, but I felt it down my bones. He paused at the doorway, glanced over his shoulder, and said, "See you at lunch, Noah." It wasn't a question, it was a certainty. But the strangest part was the way he said my name, like he'd been waiting to say it long before he actually did. Jordan's last words. "See you at lunch, Noah." Like there was some kind of prophecy I didn't understand yet. And I hated that affected me. I hated that I cared. New school, new beginning, new life. That was a plan, not whatever this was. When the lunch bell rang, my stomach twisted. Students rushed toward the cafeteria like it was a battlefield they were used to, and I wasn't. I walked slower, unsure whether going to lunch with Sebastian was something I was supposed to do or something I had been drafted into. I pushed open the cafeteria doors and instantly felt eyes on me. Not mockery, curiosity, like people were wondering where I would go, who I would sit with, whether the new kid understood the unspoken rules. I didn't, but I didn't have time to figure them out because I spotted him immediately. Sebastian, sitting at a corner table with 3 other guys, all athletic-looking, loud, confident, the kind of guys who walk like they own the space around them. And yet Sebastian wasn't talking, he wasn't laughing, he wasn't even eating. He was watching the door, watching me. The moment our eyes met, he lifted his chin in a silent gesture, someone between a "come here" and a "don't make me repeat myself." My chest tightened. Was this a good idea? Probably not. Did I go anyway? Yes. My legs moved before my mind caught up. When I reached the table, the other boys stared at me like I just walked into the wrong dimension. One of them, a guy with curly hair and a Letterman jacket, scoffed. "Who is this?" Sebastian didn't even blink. "He's with me." With him. That's simple. The guy raised an eyebrow, amused. "Since when do you bring people?" Sebastian didn't answer. Instead, he nudged the empty seat beside him with his foot. That was my cue. I sat down, ignoring the way my heart hammered inside my chest. "New kid, right?" another boy asked. "What's your name again?" "Noah," I said. "Right. Welcome to the jungle." Sebastian shot him a look, sharp enough to silence him instantly. Lunch continued, but it didn't feel like I was part of it. The guys talked mostly among themselves, sports, teachers they hated, weekend plans. But Jordan, Sebastian, barely spoke. Every few minutes he glanced at me discreetly, like he was checking something. Not checking on me, checking something about me, like he needed to know how I handle being next to him. Halfway through lunch, he leaned a little closer. "You settling in?" "Trying," I said. He nodded once. "Good." That was it. He didn't elaborate, didn't ease attention, just acknowledged it existed. The guys got louder, arguing about some basketball tournament, and the cafeteria buzzed with noise. It was the kind of chaos that usually made me anxious, but being next to Sebastian felt strangely grounding, like the noise couldn't touch me if he was sitting there. But I kept stealing glances at him. Not on purpose, it just happened. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes never fully softened, like he was always ready for something, a confrontation, a threat, a secret. Whatever it was, he lived in a world I didn't understand yet. After a while, one of his friends elbowed him jokingly. "So, you gonna tell us why the new kid gets VIP treatment?" Sebastian didn't hesitate. "Because I said so." The guy laughed. Classic Hale answer. But something in his tone told me they weren't used to questioning him, and something in Jordan's expression told me this conversation was over. The bell rang soon after, and students poured out into the hallways. As I stood to leave, Sebastian grabbed my backpack strap lightly, stopping me. "You sit with us now." Not a question, not permission, a choice he had already made for me. I tried to play it cool. "Okay." He gave a small nod, like my agreement meant more than he wanted to show. We walked out of the cafeteria together, but halfway down the hallway he paused. "Hey," he said, turning to me. "Did you feel weird today, sitting with us?" "I mean, yes," I admitted. "I figured. Is that bad?" He shook his head. "No, it means you're paying attention." Before I could ask what that meant, someone called his name from across the hall. He glanced in their direction, jaw clenching. "Go ahead," he told me. "Get to class." I opened my mouth to say something, I don't even know what, but he was already walking away, hands in his pockets, the air around him carrying that quiet storm energy I still didn't know how to read. I headed toward my next class, my mind spinning with questions I didn't know how to answer. Why did he choose me? Why did he want me near him? Why did his voice echo inside me longer than it should? And why? Why did it feel like he wasn't just watching me, but protecting me? I was halfway down the science hallway when I stopped dead in my tracks, because someone stepped directly into my path. A girl with sharp eyes and a knowing smirk. "You're the new kid," she said. "Yeah, you sat with them, I guess." She tilted her head, evaluating me. "You should be careful." My stomach tightened. "Careful of what?" "Not what," she said, stepping closer. Before I could ask, she placed her hand on my shoulder, almost gentle, but not comforting. "I don't know what Sebastian wants with you," she whispered, "but people don't just get chosen by him." "Chosen?" She nodded slowly. "And it never ends simple." I felt my pulse spike. What does that mean? But she just smiled, sad, almost sympathetic, before walking away. I stood there, breath caught in my throat, her warning echoing in my ears. Chosen, not simple, and somehow I already knew she was right. I couldn't focus for the rest of the day. Every class blurred into the next. Every teacher's voice sounded distant, fading under the weight of the girl's warning repeating in my head. People don't just get chosen by him, and it never ends simple. What did that even mean? Chosen for what? And why me? By the final bell, I'd convinced myself I was overthinking everything. Sebastian was just, I don't know, territorial, protective, bored. Maybe new students were entertainment for him. Maybe he brought me to his table because he felt like it. Guys like him didn't always need a reason. Still, when I stepped outside into the afternoon light, I caught myself scanning the parking lot, and I hated that I was hoping to see him. I didn't have to look for long. Sebastian stood, leaning against a black car near the exit, arms crossed, eyes fixed on me, like I was the only person in the entire school who mattered. The wind tugged lightly at his hair, sunlight catching on the edges of his jawline. He pushed himself off the car when I walked closer. "Heading home?" he asked. "Yes." "Walk with me." Again, not a question, a direction.
I hesitated for only a second before falling into step beside him. Students streamed around us, but no one walked too close. Jordan's presence created a bubble, a boundary people respected without needing explanation. After a moment, he glanced sideways at me. "You look like something's on your mind." I almost laughed. Was it that obvious? "I'm fine," I said. "No, you're not." His certainty irritated me, mostly because he wasn't wrong. "A girl talked to me today," I admitted. He stopped walking abruptly, his expression shifting. "I don't know her name. Brown hair, sharp eyes, kind of intense." His jaw tightened. "What did she say?" "That I should be careful." He exhaled roughly, not angry, frustrated. "She shouldn't have done that." "So she's lying?" I asked. He ran his hand through his hair. "No, just dramatic." "That's not a denial." He looked at me then, and for a moment I saw something deeper behind his eyes, something tired, something guarded. "People at this school talk," he said. "They create stories because they're bored, because it gives them something to whisper about." "And what story are they building about you?" He didn't answer. We kept walking in silence until we reached a quieter part of the street. Sebastian kicked a small rock near his foot, then said, "Look, you're new. They're curious about you, and when people here are curious about you, they start assuming things. They see who you sit with, who you talk to. They build a narrative around that." "And what narrative are they building about you?" I asked, carefully. His gaze drifted towards me, slow, deliberate. "That I'm interested in you." My heartbeat jumped hard. I swallowed. "Are you?" He didn't look away. "I asked you to sit with me, didn't I?" "That's not an answer," I murmured. He smirked slightly, the corner of his mouth lifting. "Maybe it's the only one you get right now." We stopped when we reached the crosswalk. Cars rushed by, wind brushing against us, the world moving fast around the stillness between us. Finally, he said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "When I told you to sit next to me, why did you listen?" The question caught me off guard. I asked myself the same thing all day. "I don't know," I admitted. "It just felt like the
Right thing to do. He nodded slowly like he had been expecting that answer or hoping for it. "Good," he said quietly, "because I meant what I said. You're safer near me." "From what?" He opened his mouth, then closed it again, looking away. "It's complicated. Try me, Noah." He rubbed the back of his neck. "There are people here who don't like differences, who pick targets. They don't say it outright, but they make your life hell. Last year, they went after a kid because he was quiet, because he didn't fit in their mold. I stepped in. They didn't like that, so they hate you now." He shook his head. "They respect me now, which is worse in a way. Respect built on fear is never clean. And being around you puts me on their radar." "No," he turned to me, eyes narrowing. "Being around you puts you under my protection. That's different. Protection." The word sent a strange chill down my spine. Not fear, not discomfort, something else, something dangerously close to wanting more. We reached the curb where we were supposed to part ways. I glanced down the street toward my house, but my feet didn't move. Sebastian noticed. "Do you want me to walk you home?" he asked. The question was casual on the outside, but the air between us thickened instantly. He wasn't just offering safety. He was offering something else. Space, proximity, intention. "Do you usually walk people home?" I asked lightly. "Only people I want to." The words hit harder than I expected. Before I could respond, a loud shout echoed from down the block. "Hey!" We both turned. 3 boys, older, bulkier, were walking toward us, footsteps heavy, expressions unfriendly. And the way Jordan's shoulders stiffened told me these weren't just random classmates. He muttered under his breath, "Not now." They stopped a few feet away, looking between him and me with amused disdain. "New kid, huh?" the one in front said. "You moving on already, Hale?" Sebastian stepped slightly in front of me, instinctively, protectively. "Keep walking," he said. The guy smirked. "Relax, just wanted to see what type of charity project you picked this time." Jordan's jaw tightened. I said, "Walk away." But the guy leaned forward just a little, eyes dark. "Careful, Hale. People'll start thinking things about you." My pulse spiked. Sebastian didn't react, not visibly, but something in him shifted. A tension, a warning, a truth he wasn't ready for me or them to hear. And then the guy said the sentence that froze the blood in my veins. "You keep collecting boys like this, people might start saying you're not as straight as you pretend." Sebastian inhaled sharply once, slow. Then he said my name. "Noah, go, now." That was a suggestion. It was a command wrapped in fear, a command wrapped in something thousands of times more dangerous. I didn't move at first. Jordan's voice had dropped into a tone I hadn't heard before, low, controlled, but sharpened by something like panic. He wasn't angry at me. He wasn't annoyed. He was scared for me. Before I could process that, the guy in front, the one who'd thrown the last jab, took a slow step closer. "What's wrong, Hale? Don't want your little friend to hear the truth?" Jordan's body shifted just enough to block me completely. "I said, go," he repeated, without taking his eyes off them. My throat tightened. "Jordan." "Noah." This time it wasn't just urgency, it was pleading. I took one step back, then another, but I couldn't bring myself to fully leave. I stopped a few feet behind him, frozen between fear and the instinct to stay. The leader laughed. "Look at you playing guard dog again." His eyes flicked toward me. He must be special. Sebastian didn't flinch. "You know nothing about him." "Then tell us," the guy taunted. "Why this one? Why that table? Why the back seat? Why—" "Stop talking." Jordan's voice sliced the air, cold, precise, dangerous. But the guy didn't back down. "You keep picking boys, Hale. One day someone's gonna figure out why." The implication hit like a punch to my stomach. And judging by the way Jordan's entire body tensed, it hit him too. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Then Sebastian stepped forward once, a single, controlled movement, and said quietly, "If you ever talk to him, we'll have a problem." The other boy's expression shifted from cocky to cautious. Not fear exactly, but recognition. Recognition that Sebastian wasn't bluffing. "Come on," the leader said, finally, jerking his chin at the others. "We're done here." They turned and walked away, muttering something I didn't catch. Sebastian didn't move until they were at the end of the block. Only then did his shoulders drop slightly. He didn't turn around, not yet. For a moment I wondered if he was ashamed, or if he was figuring out what to say, or if he wished I had actually run like he told me to. Slowly he exhaled. Then he turned. His eyes went straight at mine, and the look in him made my breath hitch, a mix of anger, fear, and something deeper that he was trying hard to hide. "You weren't supposed to stay," he said quietly. "I wasn't going to leave you alone. That's exactly why you should have left." "What does that even mean?" I asked, voice cracking. "What's going on with you? Who are they?" Sebastian dragged a hand down his face, looking more exhausted than I'd ever seen him. "They're no one," he said. Too fast, too practiced. I stepped closer. "Jordan, I'm serious." "Noah, they don't matter." That didn't look like nothing. He clenched his jaw. "They like to push. They like to provoke. Especially me." "Why you?" He hesitated. His eyes flickered for just 1 second, not away from me, but inward, like he was terrified of the answer he carried inside. "Because I don't fit their mold," he said finally. His voice wasn't offensive or angry. It was tired, the kind of tired that didn't come from a long day, but from years of pretending. I swallowed. "And what does that have to do with me?" Sebastian locked eyes with me, really locked, so intensely that I felt heat rise up my neck. "Everything," he whispered. My breath caught. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing a little. "You don't get it. They notice things. They notice who I'm around, what I do, what I look at. I've spent years keeping them guessing, not confirming anything, not letting anything slip." And then he stopped,
staring at me like he wished he could stop himself from saying the next part. Then you showed up. I blinked. Me? He stepped closer, not intimidating, not imposing, vulnerable. You walked into the room and looked straight at me, like you weren't scared, like you weren't impressed, like you saw something I didn't want anyone to see. What I see? I asked softly. He let out a shaky breath. I don't know, but it scared me. My chest tightened, a pull I couldn't resist. Jordan, I told you to sit in the back because I didn't want them near you. I didn't want them talking to you or messing with you or dragging you into the crap I deal with. If you were trying to keep me safe, I said, why did you want me near you? He didn't answer, not with words, but his silence told me everything. He wanted me near him, more than he wanted to admit, more than he even understood yet. Jordan, I said gently, I can handle myself. No, you can't, he said firmly, not with them, and not with this. With what? He hesitated again, that same hesitation from before, heavy and loaded. Then he said the closest thing to a confession I'd heard from him. You being around me changes things. My heart stuttered. He took one step closer, then another. We were inches apart now, his breath brushing my face. His eyes locked onto me with intensity that made my legs feel weak. Things I'm not supposed to feel, he said quietly. There it was, the truth cracking through. But before I could respond, before I could tell him, I felt something too, something I didn't know how to name. A car horn honked loudly from the street. Sebastian jerked his head up. A black SUV slowed near us. The window rolled down, and inside was the girl who had warned me. She leaned her head out the window and smirked at Jordan. Told you it wouldn't stay simple, she called out. Then she looked at me directly, knowingly. Buckle up, new kid. You've got no idea what you're stepping into. Jordan's face went pale, and before I could ask anything, the SUV sped away, leaving Sebastian and me alone in the street, and leaving me with a horrifying realization that whatever this was, it was much, much bigger than I thought. For the rest of the walk home, Sebastian didn't say a word, not one, and neither did I. Every time I opened my mouth to ask him what the girl meant, what the SUV meant, what his reaction meant, the words got tangled in my throat. I could hear his breathing change, shallow at times, controlled at others, like he was fighting with himself inside his own mind. When we finally reached the corner where our streets split, he stopped abruptly. Noah, he said, not looking at me, go home. That's all you're gonna say? Yes. He rubbed the back of his neck.
Tension visible in the rigid line of his shoulders. It's better if we don't talk right now, he muttered. That sounds like you're trying to push me away. Maybe I am. And why? I asked, feeling a sting sharper than I expected. Because I don't want you in the crossfire of something you don't understand. Then explain it to me. I can't. His voice cracked, just barely, but enough for me to hear the fear underneath. Fear for me, not of me. I stepped closer. Jordan, you can't ask me to stay near you one moment and walk away the next. It doesn't work like that. He finally lifted his gaze to mine. His eyes were tired, conflicted, burning with something I couldn't decipher. You don't get it, he said softly. You being around me, it changes how things look. To who? He hesitated. To everyone. I took a breath. Including you? His jaw tightened. He didn't answer. That silence, his silence, said more than any confession could. But before I could push further, he stepped back. Please, Noah, he whispered, just go home. It wasn't cold, it wasn't dismissive, it was a plea. So I did something I hated. I let him leave. The rest of the evening felt hollow. I kept replaying everything. The warning from the girl, the confrontation with the guys, Sebastian stepping in front of me like he'd done it 1,000 times, in the moment his voice had dropped to say things he wasn't ready to say out loud. I barely slept. By morning, my mind was a storm of questions and emotions I didn't know how to tame. When I entered school the next day, I didn't expect Sebastian to be waiting for me, but I looked for him anyway. He wasn't by the lockers, he wasn't in the hallway, he wasn't in homeroom. But the second I stepped inside the classroom, I noticed something strange. The seat next to him, my seat, was empty, not taken by anyone else, just waiting. Sebastian sat with his arms crossed, eyes fixed on the desk, expression unreadable. But when I walked toward him, something shifted in his posture, barely noticeable, but real. He cared that I showed up. I sat down slowly. He didn't look at me, but his voice was low enough to be meant only for me. You shouldn't have come. I'm not scared. You should be. Of what? I whispered. He swallowed, eyes still fixed forward. Of being seen with me. I shook my head. I don't care what people think. You should care what they think, he said without hesitation. Those guys you saw yesterday, they don't forget, they don't forgive, and when someone gets close to me, they... He cut himself off. My pulse quickened. They what? He finally turned, meeting my eyes. They target them. A chill ran through me. Why? I asked. He hesitated again, the same hesitation that haunted every moment between us. It doesn't matter, he said under his breath. Just stay out of their way. That's not a real answer. Before I could respond, the bell rang. The teacher walked in, students quieted, and for the next 40 minutes, Sebastian didn't look at me once, but something about him felt alert, protective, like he was listening to every sound, every voice, waiting for something to go wrong. When class ended, I reached for my backpack, and Sebastian lightly touched my arm, a quick, instinctive motion. We're not done talking, he said. The touch burned into my skin. He led me out of the building, down a pathway behind the gym where no one else walked. The air smelled like wet grass. Sunlight filtered through the trees overhead. Sebastian stopped near the fence, exhaling hard like he'd been running. Noah, I need you to understand something. Okay, what? What happened yesterday, he said, was not about you. It was about me and the reputation I built. Reputation, I echoed. He nodded. People here think I'm untouchable, that I don't feel anything, that I don't want anything. And that's not true. His eyes lifted to mine, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through the exterior he always wore. No, he said quietly, it's not. My chest tightened. And when you showed up, he continued, voice low, you messed everything up, in a good way, a terrifying way. And I noticed. I didn't mean to. I know, that's the problem. You didn't try, you just walked into the room and changed everything. He ran his hand through his hair, frustrated with himself. That girl yesterday, she's not wrong. Getting close to me won't be simple. I took a step closer. Jordan, what are you so afraid will happen? He breathed out, looking at me with intensity that made my stomach flip. If I tell you, he whispered, you might walk away. I won't. You might. Try me. He looked down at the ground, and when he lifted his gaze again, his expression wasn't cold or guarded. It was raw, real, like the truth he had been hiding was finally breaking open. Jordan, my voice dropped, barely audible. They found out I liked him. My heart nearly stopped, and they destroyed him. The world went silent, completely silent. And if they find out about you, he whispered, they'll do it again. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Jordan's confession hung in the air like a storm cloud that had finally burst. The truth he had been fighting, hiding, protecting, all of it finally surfaced, and now it was between us, raw and trembling. He stepped back, running a shaking hand over his face. I shouldn't have told you, he muttered. I shouldn't have dragged you into this. I swallowed, my heartbeat pounding so hard it felt like it echoed through the trees around us. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I whispered. Because I didn't want to lose you, he said immediately. No hesitation, just truth. It hit me like a punch to the chest. He looked away again, jaw clenched tight. You think I don't notice the way you look at me, or how I look at you? You think I haven't been fighting this since the first second you walked into that classroom? My breath caught. I didn't even try to hide it. But wanting you, he said, voice breaking, and letting people see that I want you, those are two different dangers. I stepped toward him. Jordan, don't, he said quickly. If you touch me right now, I'll forget every reason I've been telling myself to keep you away. He looked exhausted, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, like he had been carrying this for years. What happened? I asked gently. With the guy before me. Something inside him tightened. Pain flickered across his eyes, not fresh pain, but scarred over pain that still burned when touched. He was a friend, Sebastian said quietly. Close, too close. We thought no one noticed. He inhaled sharply. They noticed. I felt my stomach twist. What did they do to him? I asked. Jordan's voice lowered. Rumors, slurs. They isolated him, cornered him in the locker room one day. He paused. He transferred schools a week later, never spoke to me again. And you? I asked. I fought back. His jaw clenched, got suspended for it. That explained the fear, the protectiveness, the way he always stood between me and danger like a shield.
Wasn't scared of getting hurt. He was scared I would. Jordan, I said softly, I'm not him. I know, he whispered. That's what scares me. He finally looked up, really looked, and everything inside me pulled toward him. His shoulders, once rigid, now seemed to shake slightly. His hands trembled as he tried to keep distance between us. I closed the remaining space. Anyway, tell me what you want, I said. His breath hitched, a small sound of vulnerability he couldn't hide. I want you, he said. Every part of you, every day, every second. You look at me like I'm someone worth something. My chest tightened. It was the most honest thing he had ever said. Then why are you still pushing me away? I asked. Because I don't want to ruin your life, he said. I don't want you to wake up one day and regret ever meeting me. I won't. You might. Jordan, I said, stepping even closer. Every moment I've been around you, I've felt something I've never felt before, something that scares me too, something that makes me want to stay, not run. His breath shook. And if we face hell for it, I added, then we face it together. Jordan's eyes closed, like those words hurt and healed him at the same time. You don't understand what you're choosing, he whispered. Then explain it, he exhaled shakily. Being with me means being a target. It means whispers, looks, people saying you're different before you're even ready to say it yourself. He paused. It means losing people. I nodded. Then I lose them. And what about losing me? He asked, voice cracking. What if I can't protect you one day? What if? I don't need you to protect me from the world, I said. I need you to stand next to me in it. Sebastian froze. For the first time since I'd met him, he seemed to completely drop the walls he'd built around himself. Then slowly, carefully, he reached for my hand. The touch was hesitant at first, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to hold me. But when my fingers intertwined with his, he let out a breath he'd been holding for years. God, he whispered, you make it so hard to stay away. Good, he laughed, the softest, most fragile laugh I'd ever heard from him. We stood there, hands together behind the gym, hidden from a world, but no longer hidden from each other. The wind rustled the trees, sunlight filtered through the branches, the distant sound of students echoed faintly, but in that moment, it felt like the whole world had narrowed to just us. What now? I asked. He squeezed my hand gently. Now I stop pretending, he swallowed, and we take this one day at a time. Together, I said. Together, he echoed. A calm washed over him. Not complete peace, but the beginning of it, the beginning of something neither of us had been brave enough to name. He leaned his forehead against mine, our breasts blending, our hands joined, everything finally out in the open. And then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, Noah, I think I'm falling for you. I didn't respond with words. I just squeezed his hand tighter, because the truth was, I was falling.